Sejal just put a
Recording
message.
in progress.
We can also make the session live so that we are through with it. Technical team can confirm once the live is on so that I can start. Everyone should complete a pre-test before the session. If you have not completed, kindly complete it. It will be closed after a particular time. Today, after 1, it will not be available. So we request everyone to close it off. Technical team, kindly confirm. One thing I wanted to inform to all the participants, during the session, if you feel like drinking tea, you are free to bring chai and drink, but just keep yourself on video on off. Okay, when you are, because we are already attending a long time, so sitting for long time. So you feel in between you wanted to drink or eat something, you feel free to do it, but just keep the video off and you can continue to do it, and then you can switch on the video. Okay. Yeah. Technical team, are we through with the live? नीचे टीम को call कर दो. Meeting link will be same for all the meeting 3 days. So the same meeting link you have to use and join. Let us start the session. This is the first technical session on cyber safety and security concept, need and scope. And this session we have with us the RP, Ms. Chetana Khanna. She is one of the RP of preparing all the cyber safety and security materials and resources and courses from NCRT. So she was initially a teacher who was contributing as a resource person. Now she has her own startup to create awareness on this cyber safety and security. So she continues to be a resource person and contributing in this field. Ma'am, welcome for this session and over to you. So we will be taking the session will be till 1 p.m.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning all. So as we are talking about cyber safety and security, I think I should start my presentation by first discussing a few things with respect to the real world and the virtual world. So I guess it'll be okay if I use the chat window. I mean, let's interact through chat, teachers. And the first thing that I would want to discuss or maybe ask from you is that what do you think is a similarity between the real world and the virtual world? You're open to write in the chat box. Similarity. Any one similarity that you think exists between the real world and the virtual world? Or do you even think that there's any similarity? Some of you might think that there are not. Okay, Karishma ma'am says social interaction, communication, yes. Relationships, absolutely. Similarity can connect people, connections, experiences, sharing information. Boundaries are depleting. Yes, Nikhil sir says that boundaries are depleting. That's very true. Connection, connectivity, absolutely right. Pleasure, no, okay, no emotions. Connectivity, knowledge. Real world is created by God and virtual is created by us. Online sharing, education. See, all of you are writing so many new words. I see that there is very less of repetition. Yes. Updates, entertainment, finding out faraway friends. Yes. And risk, absolutely. Sharing emotions. Yes, we face all these things in the real world as well, risks, and the risks are still present in the virtual world as well. Very right. Fear also being missing out, sharing happiness. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your inputs. That's great. It's imitation of the real world. Ms. Vajit sir says it's imitation of the real world. Virtual world is artificial. Absolutely right. That is so true. That if we just think of and recall that what rules were set for us when we were young in the real world, the first thing that comes into our mind is that we should be not talking to strangers. That is what our parents taught us when we were very young, that you should avoid interacting with strangers. And you were always very particular about locking your houses when you used to go out. So now actually, as sir rightly says, that virtual world is now an imitation of a real world. All these rules apply in the virtual world as well. So when I say the blurred boundaries, one of you wrote that the boundaries have blurred. So when we say that the boundaries have blurred, we say that the real world had physical boundaries, right? I am guided by these four walls in my room. That is my space. But when I talk about the virtual world, like all of us are right now connected in the virtual world, sitting at different places. So there are no physical boundaries when we are talking about the virtual world. Similarly, when we talk about the real world, it is better equipped with respect to recognizing people we are interacting with. Right? So you can recognize me, you can speak to me, like right now my video is on, and ma'am has introduced me as Chetna Khanna. So you can connect, okay, she is Chetna Khanna, right? But if my video is off and you are told that so and so is so and so, it's not always true. There might be somebody else sitting behind. So sometimes it's difficult. People can actually fake identity as well in the real world, which is not mostly possible in the real world if you are knowing them. Next, real world is supervised. So supervised and hence strict adherence to morality and standard behavior is expected. So it's supervised actually. But here in the virtual world, there is no supervision. Hence, you would find that there's no strict adherence to morality or any standard behavior. There's no expectations. There are no expectations set as such. It's basically your onus. It's the onus of the person who's dealing, who you are dealing with. Then in the real world, you can't escape the challenges and demands that bring life skills into play. If you're sitting in a classroom and you have a problem with somebody, you will have to sort it out. You'll have to talk it out. You'll have to speak to somebody. You'll have to report it to your teacher. And then, of course, you need to understand that how you need to manage such people around. But when we are in the virtual world, situations can be molded as per choice. Thus, many a times, demeaning the life skills. Many a times. Block kar denge, avoid kar denge, we'll have another identity, we'll make another email ID. So that's one concern. And then a person's family, when we were young, if we talk about ourselves, now the children that are presently, this generation rather, is living in two worlds. They are living in the real world as well, and they are living in the virtual world. So both citizens have a real world also and the virtual world. But when we were young, we were very happy and blessed to be part of only one world. And in that one world, what influences guided us? It was basically our family, our school, our peers. They played a vital role in building our identity. But in this current situation, peer pressure, reward expectations plays a vital role in forming an identity. Children are very worried about likes, about what is being posted about them, what are they posting, and how many likes they are getting. Everything, even the social media, has an influence on how they behave, how they dress up, how they look. So on this note, I start my presentation and I share my screen. Cyber safety and security, concept, need, and scope. Now, at the end of the session, we shall be able to describe cyber safety and security, identify cyber safety and security issues in the educational ecosystem, state the elements that are part of the educational ecosystem, state the risks that are involved in the cyber world, state the threats involved in the educational ecosystem with respect to cyber safety, and we would justify that children are vulnerable. State positive impact of the virtual world. So when we talk about cyber safety and security, somehow everything starts becoming negative. That's not the truth, of course. It's, of course, even in the real world, we have issues, but we have to cope up, we have to manage, we have to find a way around them. Similarly, in the virtual world, we will also state the negative impacts of the virtual world, but of course, also understand the positive impact of the virtual world. We will practice confidentiality, integrity, availability, CIA triad in school, and analyze the role of various stakeholders in ensuring cybersecurity. So what is the role of every person who's involved in this process? So we'll be talking about that as well. So here we begin now. So when we talk about need and scope, you can see this is a headline from 1st May 2022. Indian education sector biggest target of cyber threats, remote learning among key triggers report. And all of us in some way or the other have faced certain issues when we were actually conducting classes during Corona period, right? Now, the need of this training is embedded in the adoption of remote learning by schools, large-scale digitization of education material, of student data and documents and administrative activities. Of course, we're doing everything online nowadays. Also, in the use of online learning platforms. Thus, keeping devices secure and having knowledge about the various types of threats is paramount for students' learning, experiences, and teachers' work. So, in a nutshell, we prepare ourselves and our children for the challenges of the digital age. Right? So, you can see here in the stats as well, you can see that education research is the topmost when we talk about attacks per sector. And similarly, 45% is other attacks, denial of service in cyber. These are cyber attacks in education, phishing, ransomware, data breach or leak. These are the cyber attacks that have been listed for the domain of education. Now, when we talk about cyber world, what is cyber world? And what does cyber world comprise of? So when we say cyber, it is used to describe our virtual world, right? That exists on the internet. It's a connected world, basically. When we say cyber, it's all connected. And we are dealing with internet. We are dealing with networks when we're talking about the cyber world. So what all things are part of the cyber world? So the first thing that we talk about is, of course, the devices. Right now, we are interacting through this device. If we do not have this device, we'll not be able to connect and talk to each other or discuss or maybe attend a session. So PCs, laptops, your smartphones, all these things, the hardware is first element, one element of the cyber world. Then you have networks. Now we are able to, like, first, when the system and computers came into being and we did not have this reach of internet, then of course it was like a standalone computer. Then we used to use our pen drives, our floppies, our DVDs, CDs for transferring data from one place to another. But networks have actually added to the ease of transferring data and information, accessing data and information, connecting with people. So networks is the second component that we're talking about. Then we have websites, applications, and apps. So all of us, even this particular application that we're using, the name is Zoom. So we are using this application to connect to each other. I'm showing you my presentation through a software. That's also an application, right? Similarly, for various things, we've been using various applications, various websites. Then we have data. We know that PC, network, website applications and people, person, when of course we are the main stakeholders when we talk about the cyber world. All of us, this entire thing generates something called data, right? And when we talk about data, what do you think is data? Okay, let me first ask you. Data is of course is related to you, but what kind of data is available in the cyber world with respect to you? Can you share a few? Name, photo, yes. Information, okay. Videos, date of birth, images, okay. Account information, trip details, yes. We tend to share a lot on the social media. We tend to share our trip details, where we went, history, password. Yes. So there are so many things. And yes, and even our likes, our comments, that is also data. You understand? Whatever we are liking, whatever we are commenting on, you must have seen, you must have visited many apps wherein where you like something and then you start getting information that is related to the same thing, right? So that is how they track you. They track your preferences through your likes, through your comments, right? Updated on, yes. So all, thank you so much for your responses. Thank you. So that is all about data. I mean, everything related to you is data. Your image is data. Your information, personal information is data. Your likes is data. Your comments is data. Your account information, your passwords, your OTPs, everything is data. Everything is data. So this is what a cyber world comprises of. And thus, just a minute. So, and now when we talk about cyber safety and security, these are the two terms that we spoke about. So how is safety different from security? Is safety the synonym of security, or safety and security are different? What do you think? Is it different? Yes or no? And if yes, what is the difference? It is different. Okay, great. Safety and security, you say it's different. What is the difference then? No. Okay, Ashok. Okay, different. Yes. Security is prevention. Okay. Safety is measures taken before. Okay. Okay. Safety is inside, security is from, very nice. Safety is inside, security is from outside. Yes, yes. Yeah, thank you so much. So yes, when we, let me just give you a simple, safety is physical and security of virtual. Okay. Okay. Personal security from us. Okay. So yeah, we stop with the chat. And when I say safety, let's just take a simple example. So you are given a safety jacket, right? It's not called security jacket, it's safety jacket. And somebody who sits outside your school guarding your school is called a security guard, and it's not called a safety guard, right? So when we talk about safety, safety is with respect to an individual, what measures you take to protect yourself. So cyber safety, as this definition says, includes mindful practices by an individual to ensure protection against potential threats in the cyber world. So it's about you. What actions are you going to take to ensure that you are safe, right? So what are the actions that can come under safety is password protection. When you ensure that your devices are locked, you keep pins, right? And you have strong passwords. All these things come, you are ensuring that you keep strong passwords so that nobody can hack into your system easily, right? So that's one. Then you install antivirus softwares. You ensure that your system stays updated always. You ensure, right? That you see that these small pop-outs that come and say that your browser needs updation, your app needs updation, and you're ensuring that you do that. So these are safety measures that you take, fine? So it's with respect to an individual, mindful practices by an individual to ensure protection against potential threats in the cyber world. But of course, cyber safety is a prerequisite to cyber security. If you are going to stay safe, then of course, security is also possible. When we say security, it includes the measures taken by an organization or institution or individual to ensure the protection of all the components that are part of the cyber world. So when I say all the components that are part of the cyber world, then I request you to see at the left, it's PC, laptops, smartphones, your networks, your websites, your applications, your apps, data, and including you. So when you are ensuring the protection of all these components in the cyber world, that's cyber security. For example, you enable firewall, you have multi-factor authentication. Then that's given by, of course, whenever you're using your banking accounts nowadays, they are actually they have started with this concept of 2FA. Even Google Mail, Gmail also, there's something called 2FA. If you're logging in from some other device, then it says, "Ki, let me send a code to your mobile." If you have not activated multi-factor authentication, that's not right. You should do that. Fine. So that's how you ensure security. Now that security is for everybody. It's not only for XYZ that particular feature has been defined. It has been designed and defined for everybody. So that's security measure. So when I say cybersecurity and cyber safety, to summarize, cybersecurity is to protect data and information on networks, and cyber safety is to protect individuals from harmful online content and activities. Now, I would again want to go back to that same thing, that when we started discussing this, actually, all of us know that blended learning, or the concept of using internet and technology, was always forced, that we should be making use of these things, and COVID actually forced us to use them in a very fast pace. Like overnight, all the teachers were creating presentations. Overnight, all the teachers were using various resources to create content to ensure that they are able to deliver it to students. Now, that is the basic need. When we talk about educational ecosystem, nowadays, everything is being conveyed on social media. Through WhatsApp, we are messaging parents, or we are using other ways to ensure that the information is sent to the parents quickly. We're using apps. Schools have now their own apps. There are these apps that are being used to track the transport, right? So that is why it's very important that we understand that educational ecosystem, what it is and what does it comprise of. So when we say ecosystem, we know that there are biotic elements and there are abiotic elements in an ecosystem. That is how we define it. They work together. They are interdependent. Similarly, in this system also, we have a few things. We have hardware, software, we have processes, we have people. All these things form a part of the education ecosystem. As we were discussing about the cyber world, we had similar things. Similarly, here as well, we have hardware, we have software, we have processes, we have people, and we have all these things form your educational ecosystem. The most important part is that till we do not value these resources, till we do not give attention to these things, we would not be able to ensure safety. Because till you do not understand that what vulnerabilities these things have, you will not be able to ensure safety and security. Now, so what all is at risk? When we talk about all these things, what all is at risk? We've been talking about data you've shared on the chat, that name, images, all these things. That's with respect to you as an individual. But when we talk about an educational ecosystem, a lot of things are there. We are actually storing students' data. We are transferring students' data, everything from their Aadhaar number to their parents' name to their annual income. A lot of things are being stored there. So what all is at risk? We start with first is reputation, data, then identity, privacy, life, and quality of life, along with your finances. So when we say, let's just start with data first. Of course, we've been discussing that now, like previously, we used to keep our finances under lock and key. Mama, Papa used to keep everything secured. Now, when we talk about this virtual world, it is actually imitating the real world. Everything from doing your transactions, bank transactions, to using it for the purpose of entertainment, to using it for the purpose of sharing information, or to using it for the purpose of connecting with people. For everything nowadays, you are using technology, right? And you are giving in a lot of data. And many times we consider that things that are free are very good. We should download things that are free to use. But it's important for you to understand that anything that is free is actually using you as the product. So your data is what they are actually buying for. So data means, as I said, your name, your images, even if they are your DPs, you keep your DPs on your phone, on your accounts. That's also data. Likes, you press likes for certain things. That's also data. You are surfing the web. You are choosing certain things. That's also data. You must be knowing that these social media apps, they actually use cookies. What do? Is they ensure that whatever you've been clicking or liking, they store them in cookies in your system. And whenever you log back again, they use that cookies to serve you with things that interest you, right? Then identity. When we talk about identity, it is, as in the very first slide I spoke about, that anybody can actually take your identity nowadays in the virtual world, which is not possible in the real world, right? Yes, there have been instances, little difficult process, it can be done, but in the virtual world, it is very easy. For anyone to create an account, put your photograph, write your name, and then say that this is you. It's easy. Similar, you must be hearing about these, how people are actually into these financial frauds wherein they are using OTP to get data, to get money from your account into theirs. So what are they doing? They're actually using your identity, because your OTP is connected to your identity, your account, and when they use your OTP, that means that they are actually using your identity to get your information. Similarly, with respect to privacy, so what happens is a lot of things there on the online mode. Many times we don't know that we have made them public. It's important that you understand that every app, every site has a settings option. You can ensure that your data stays private. There are rules that have been defined. So it's very important that you go and read the settings, go and find the settings option and go through the various privacy settings that they offer you. Even with respect to your photographs, with respect to what you are sharing, your third party, if you want to share your data to a third party, you can, if you are allowing cookies or not, all these things can be actually undone or done in your settings app, right? Then we talk about finances. Of course, I just, as I spoke, that it's very, because you're all everything. If we are talking about digital India, we are talking about QR codes, we are talking about payments online, we're talking about NEFT. Everything is being transferred online nowadays. So of course, and that is related to your account number, your OTPs, your CVVs, and all those things. So finances is another thing that is at risk. Then life and quality of life. There have been many instances where we've seen that people have actually succumbed to the pressure that social media has put on them. With respect to children, we've seen some very awkward behaviors with respect to they becoming violent. We've seen people actually suffering because of some kind of misinformation available on the internet about them. So all these things, and then quality of life. When we talk about quality of life, it's about how much time we are spending together and how much time we are spending on social media. What is being given priority? So all these things are at risk. Now, what are the threats that you can actually face? First is unauthorized person may have access to username, password, and pictures. When I say unauthorized, means somebody who is not entitled to use them has your username, passwords, and pictures. How can this happen? This can happen, one, that you have willfully shared your username, passwords with somebody. You have kept your data public for others to download and use them, morph them, use them in whatever way they want to. One. Second can be that you have logged into somebody's device. You went somewhere for some kind of a session or maybe some kind of a conference, and then you were asked, you said that I would be needing a device. You used their devices, you logged into your email ID, went in, you then accessed your few things there as well, and then you left that system, but you did not log out. That can be one way of you allowing an unauthorized person to have access to your data, right? Then similarly, you have your devices, you have not locked them. There is no password on your system. Anybody can come and see your data. So that's another way that you can give unauthorized persons access to your username, passwords, or pictures, or many other things. Then next is you are unable to log into your computer system, email account, or online bank account. So this is called denial of service, that you are trying to, but you are unable to access. So this is a threat, the denial of service, that you are typing your password correctly, you're writing everything properly, but your system is not opening. Next, your system is infected with a malware that spies on your confidential information such as internet usage or bank details, etc. Many a times we visit certain websites. I mean, of course, your browser nowadays prompts that this is an insecure website. Till you are not very sure that this, no, I mean, it's insecure, but it's not going to do any such activity that might just steal my information, you should not access them. Many times it also happens that you've accessed a website and you see that blue download button, it is highlighted, and you see something is getting downloaded and you ignore it. Don't do that. You need to understand that these sites, what they want to do is they want to actually put in a Trojan in your system to actually get whatever data you are typing. If you're typing something, they would capture that data. It would send it to the person who has posted, who has ensured that it stays in your system, and then that person can actually, through that, in a lot of numbers, get your username, your passwords, your bank details, which sites you've been accessing the most. So all these things can actually happen. So how you need to ensure that this doesn't happen? First of all, always use trusted sites. When you are actually making payments, use a site that has an S with it, and then do not click on any links, anything that leads you to some other place which you do not know of. You should not be going to that links, not using any links. Emails mein kai baar you get links that please click on so and so for your KYC. You know that bank will never ask for your KYC through a link. Why would you want to click on that, right? So you click on that and then you see a website that looks similar to that. So there was just this news a few days back. I saw that Bisleri bottles. So what people do is they use the same branding and everything same. The bottle size, the type of bottle, the color, and everything is same. They write BSILERI, and or they write some spelling mistake. But because we are so sure about the designing and branding, we assume it's Bisleri and we buy it, and many people have fallen ill. Similarly is with websites. You are asked to click on a link. You click on a link. You go to a site that looks like an ICICI bank site or maybe some other bank site, and you assume yes, the colors are the same. It must be that site. You start providing your information, password, and everything. But it is important that you know that you should read through. Sometimes one small I here and there can be a problem. So make sure that you are always vigilant with respect to what you are downloading, what you are clicking on, because malwares actually come into your system when you are actually downloading something. People trying to download music, songs. We know that it's not easy for somebody to download. Then you go to some sites that are doing it, which is wrong. Ethically also and lawfully is wrong. You are going to download there, then of course it has its own risks, right? Then someone asks you to share your confidential details by claiming that you have won a lottery, or prompting you to divulge details to complete the KYC process through email that I discussed. But you should not be divulging any information whatsoever. So the point is, if you look at all these points, the most vulnerable element of this entire ecosystem, even in the educational ecosystem or any cyber system, if you talk about, is human being, us. So it's on us to practice that extra caution to ensure that we are not compromised upon, right? So even whenever you are sending you have to have that 5 W's and 1 H logic in your mind always. What, where, when, why, how. Why am I giving this information? What is the need of this information? Where is this information going to go? For how long this information will stay? How is it going to affect me? So all these things have to come to your mind before you share any data. And when we are talking about an educational ecosystem, your website, your school computer system, you need to be extra aware, because it's not only you, it's your children's data also that is compromised. Then someone may pose as a trusted source and emotionally pressurize you to share important information on transfer money. So this happens. This is social engineering. Then someone gets access to details such as name, family details, address, phone number, and bank details of all the school employees, students, teachers, and other staff from your device on the internet servers. This is also a threat when we talk about the educational ecosystem. Someone steals your pen drive or hard drive that stores sensitive data. This is about how protecting your own devices. Then someone logs in your system and changes the questions in a question paper, or deletes the paper, or prints it to share further. Now, these are few things that we are pointing out as threats, but how can we manage them? How can we manage this threat? How can we ensure that someone doesn't log into our system and changes the questions? What can you do at your level to ensure that your device is safe? You can type in your comments, please, in the chat box, please. Yes, password protection. Absolutely. And ensure that your password is not shared with everybody. That you can actually make multiple passwords in your system, multiple users. So you ensure that, okay, one user is for you and the other is for me, right? And make sure that your password is not very obvious. Keep devices offline, private browsing. Yes, private browsing, incognito mode, two-step verification. Very right, very right. And if someone steals your pen drive, even then, if you're ensuring that your data is password protected, then you are still safe, right? So everything that your system has should be under lock and key. That is the most important thing. that we need to ensure of. Face and fingers, yes, biometrics. You can use biometrics as well so that nobody else is able to open. What happens is when we talk about password protection, many a times people say that if you ask us to password protect our system and God forbid if some kind of accident occurs, and then I am not in a position to share who the person who's the contact person, then what to do? Then you need to understand that every phone has an option of emergency numbers, right? So we need to find out, okay, how many emergency numbers you want to keep so that if even if your phone is locked, at least somebody who's near to you can be contacted immediately. The point is to find workarounds, not using the technology is not an option, but yes, what options do we have in case of any mishap, or how can we prevent a mishap? That is the priority. So when we talk about system technology, we've spoken about devices, we've spoken about softwares, data and networks, and we've also spoken about people. Now, what's most important is that we need to really understand that everybody, you just can't say that it's children, everybody is vulnerable. Every day, every now and then we hear about one or the other scam that's happening. We've heard about the courier scam, then we've heard about the pawn scam wherein somebody calls you, video call is there and you're picking up the phone. The point is that why would you want to uh, pick up somebody's video call who you don't know, right? So there are so many things that you need to actually be very careful about. It's about being mindful about what action you are taking. It's not that it doesn't happen. Everybody is in some way or the other must have faced that electricity bill scam, that your electricity connection would be disconnected. Schools maybe could have come that electricity connection would be disconnected. Please click here to pay so and so, right? So it's only about being mindful and cross-checking, double-checking. You can see here the graphs shows that 2021, it's actually from 19, it was 321, it's 1500 cyber attacks. And if you go on and check the latest trends, of course, it's only on an increasing spree. 80% of Indian netizens are harassed online. 45% threats of physical violence, cyberbullying, cyber stalking, and you see the states, name of the states as well, right? So everybody, all of us are vulnerable. We need to be cautious. So when we talk about our elders were very, very particular about how much they spoke, to whom they spoke, what, even I remember that they used to write things in their diaries about the budget that, okay, this time it was this much, next time it was that much. They were very particular about things. And that is why they protected their things. They valued their things. Now, the problem is that we are living in two worlds. One is the real world. We value things in the real world, but we are somehow not understanding what things are associated with us in the digital world. And somehow, when we are missing out on those things, we are actually compromising upon our own security. Till we start valuing our property in the digital space, we will not be able to protect them in this virtual world. So children also need attention. As you see, these are few clippings that show why children need attention. So you see that boy booked for lewd post about girls, then dies after slipping into pond while taking selfie. First Indian victim of blue whale. All of us are very well aware about the blue whale app. Then teen addicted to playing games dies by suicide. Then when kids hit out because they can't log off. So when parents say that you have to switch it off, they get angry. All these issues, we are talking about it very lightly, that when we give our child, when we tell a child to switch off, he gets angry, he gets annoyed. But that is actually a change in behavior, which needs to be checked. There's something called internet addiction disorder that has been reported, and there's a special department has been made to handle all these things in Safdarjung in Delhi. So all these things need to be taken care of, need to be reported. So children, basically, when we talk about children, we know very well that they do not, the decision making, the risk analysis, the problem solving, all these things that are part of the prefrontal cortex, they are not developed till mid-20s. So some researchers say it's 25, some say it is 24, 23, but yes, of course, mid-20s. Till then, the prefrontal cortex is not developed completely. The risk analysis, decision making, problem solving, all these things are actually under development. So of course they are vulnerable. They are relying more on their emotional brain. So they quickly get angry. There's this rage that we see in children nowadays is part of that thing, because they're living in a virtual world as well. So wherein all those pressure of not being liked, of not being mentioned, is there, right? They want to look good all the time. They have filters all the time on. I mean, I feel very surprised whenever we used to see our own pics in our own albums. We remember that we used to look very awkward. We used to tell them, "Mama, why did you make us wear this and that?" But nowadays, children, they are always picture perfect. They are always using their filters. We don't. This is not something that is not good, but yes, it is not always good. You have to express your real self. You can't just hide yourself into behind something that's not real. That is what we need to understand, and children need to be explained this. So when we talk about children as educators, we need to ensure what is our role. We need to understand that. So first is, of course, that they are vulnerable, number one. Second, we cannot ignore any behavior changes in the class. Sometimes you see that somebody who's very hyper, who's talking all the time, smiling, and suddenly he or she is down. There can be some family issues, but there can also be some social media issues that the child is dealing with. Next, if you notice something unusual, please seek help from a psychologist. Don't try to be a counselor. You need to take help. If you think that something is unusual and you're not handling it, to first thing you should try. But if it is not happening, you should always seek a professional help. Let them know that you're always there for them. Educate them about staying safe in the virtual world. And of course, tell them about the law implications also. Many a times nowadays, we find children posting remarks about students, teachers in social media or maybe somewhere else. So it's important that we discuss with them about the implications that it might have in future with respect to law windings as well. Now, when we talk about impacts of the virtual world, positive impacts. So we've discussed all the negatives. Now let's see how it's positive. Of course, everything that has positive has also some negatives as well. So we are able to connect today through this video conferencing through various parts of all of you are sitting in different parts of country. I'm sitting at a different place, and we are able to connect and talk to each other. We can share our information. You are actually sharing your information through chat as well, your opinions also. So yes, that's one advantage is video call, UPI. We are able to make payments online nowadays. Social networking, MOOCs, online payments, video conferencing, online shopping, net banking, entertainment, email. All these things are positive impacts of the virtual world, which has been possible only because we are connected, because we have connectivity. Second, communication. Connectivity promotes communication, and that leads to sharing, which of course the biggest example today is on-demand learning. These are the positive impacts, few of the positive impacts of the virtual world. Now, when we talk about the negative impacts of the virtual world, it's important that we understand when we are studying education, all of us as educators know that when we talk about domains of learning, we talk about cognitive aspect, we talk about affective aspect, we talk about the psychomotor aspect. We talk about all these three aspects when we talk about learning. And in cognition also, we have that pyramid that we follow, Bloom's taxonomy, knowledge, understanding, and everything that is related to cognition. So the negative impacts of the virtual world, when we talk about them, they are many folds. They are actually cognitive as well. Then there are affective, social, ethical, and physical. So when we say cognitive effect, the first you can say is neurocognitive decline. That is lack of attention. So as educators, we are taught that when we are talking about memory, we talk about short-term memory and we talk about long-term memory. Anything that has to go from short-term memory to long-term memory has to be rehearsed, has to be practiced. That is why in school we talk about practicing more. We talk about writing answers, learning them again and again till you feel that it's done. So that is how data is transferred from STM to LTM. Nowadays, when we talk about students, there's lack of attention. What is the reason? They're using these gadgets, and that gadget has this tun notification sound all the time. And we know that any interruption while the processing takes place from STM to LTM is actually going to stop the process. So lack of attention, you have these 15-second shots that children watch nowadays. There is no, you're looking at something, you're watching a documentary or anything, there's an ad, you would want to skip, go to some other channel. So this is neurocognitive decline. You have so much to choose from nowadays that sometimes you get confused at what you're supposed to do, and you waste many hours in only deciding what you want to see and pick. So lack of attention, loss of linear thinking, loss of memory. Because nowadays, if you see, this is called digital dementia. This term nowadays is known as digital dementia. if we talk about our generation or generation before us, they remember many things, lot many things. But if you talk about children, they don't. Using Google for finding answers is a good thing. Of course, we should. But we should also promote children to then paraphrase things and write them in their own words rather than just only reading and copying, to help them and understand that what is the importance of whatever you are writing. You need to actually understand also and then express in your own words. That is how we are ensuring that their cognition remains good, right? Then we go on to the effective aspect. So if we talk about the effective aspect, cyber grooming is one of them. Low self-esteem. Cyber grooming is what? Cyber grooming is that somebody comes and he or she tries to woo you, tries to be there, like tries to impress you and say that, okay, see, I'm there for you. If any problem, I'll take care. And, you kind of influence a person. Then low self-esteem. What children actually are dependent upon with respect to self-esteem nowadays is not what are their strengths and weaknesses. It is more of now how many likes they are getting for something, how many friends do they have on social media. Then internet addiction disorder, these gaming. Nowadays, children prefer staying home and playing games online. All of us know that it gives a dopamine rush. It makes you feel there's this concept of reward seeking that keeps them glued to the screens. That leads to addiction. Now, we need to really understand all these aspects till we do not bring them into curriculum, till we do not bring them into the educational system, till we do not talk about them. They will not be aware that what is happening with them. So effective impact is these are few effective impacts that I'm talking about. There are others. If you just go, like if you have people nowadays, they are addicted to checking each other's status. That's called fear of missing out. Social networking, they have to check all the time what happened, right? So these are a few of the impacts. Next is social impact. So if we see cyberbullying, stalking. Now, normally what happens is children, they are online there. Sometimes they want to vent out their anger on some friend. They start doing that online by isolating that person or maybe talking bad about them online. So this is the social. Now, this is not how we can allow children to grow, because in the real world, we've been laying very strict guidelines, very strict rules with respect to behavior, that how you should be behaving in a social environment. But in the virtual world, it's only them, and they think that they can do whatever they want in the virtual world with anybody they would want. So that is something that has to be checked. Not only this, if we talk about if we say confirmation bias nowadays, like we understand what is confirmation bias, something that you would want to only hear things that you think are right. So in the social world, it is very easy for people to just children to keep on liking things that they like. They don't want to accept diversity. They don't want to accept different perspectives. And if they get a different perspective, how to handle them, that is not part of their system nowadays. Like nowadays, even in the class, if you have a group discussion, you tell them that this is okay, that's your opinion, how would you say that, that's possible. But not in the virtual world. There you will they can easily shun people and avoid discussions that do not go their way. Then digital footprints. Let's just take a simple example. Supposing you've been allotted 3 people, out of which you have to choose one for assisting you in your maybe training sessions. Now, you have been given 3 people, A, B, and C. A, you go and you see that, okay, let me go and check their social media account, because you don't know them. They've been given by somebody XYZ and you just don't know how they would be. So you decide, okay, let me just go and check their social media accounts, how they behave, what is their behavior in that world. So you go and you see the first person is somebody who always has a problem, always. You only see negative remarks, you only see complaints on the social media handle or on their social media accounts, and they have a lot of followers. Then the second person, number B. A is somebody who is always complaining. B is somebody who is always sharing joke, is a happy-go-lucky person. Jokes are very harmless. They don't talk bad about anybody. It's just happy type person and has many followers again. Then third person, that is B. C is somebody who's actually posting only motivational quotes, inspiring quotes, and sometimes urging people to go on to vote and maybe talk about something that has been discovered. It's something new that has come up, or briefings, or maybe budget, like 2024 budget is there. So some kind of highlights of the budget, that kind of information that the third person shares. Now you have these three people, A, B, and C. If I give you an option to choose after social media screening, which one would you prefer to have as your assistant? A, B, or C? Okay. I see a lot of C's. 1A, okay. C, B's. All right, thank you. So I see a lot of C's, very few B's, and very, 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 very few C's. A smiley B, right? So it's just what I want to bring to your attention through this activity is that you not knowing that person, none of them, you have not even met them, but just on the basis of their social media account, you have formed a perception about how they might be. So that is what we need to actually understand, that everything nowadays, whatever you are doing online, is basically your reputation. People can judge you on the basis of how you're behaving. Then digital footprints, of course, digital footprints, when we talk about it, is that we say that everything that is there on the system remains forever. Right? Though you know that WhatsApp says it's private, yes, it stays private. That's very true. But how do we explain all these things? This is with respect to, for example, I shared something about you to somebody, and then after some time I realized that, oh, I should not have done that. So what I do is I kind of delete for everyone. But till that moment, the other person had already shared that with somebody else, or or may have downloaded that, or may have kept a snapshot, or maybe of that particular comment that I had made, or maybe whatever I was discussing. So it's not that easy when we talk about things. It's not that easy. It stays there. It can just get forwarded before you even think of deleting it. So socially, when we talk about social, we say man is a social animal. And when we say man is a social animal, that means we are talking about bonding with others, behaving with others, how we behave with others. And that is how our social bonding is formed with respect to my reactions, my actions, and my behavior. So all these things have to be taken care of when we are there in the virtual world, and these are the negative impacts. Cyberbullying, stalking, all these things are the negative impacts that we see in the virtual world. Then ethical. So when we talk about ethical, we must have heard about plagiarism, flaming, misinformation, fake websites, or fake news. So when we say plagiarism is what? When we are using content, somebody else's content, and we are claiming it to be ours, right? So normally we always nowadays students are given projects, and they are asked to make those projects and submit it to the school. So you see that pictures are there on the web page that might just be a copy of Wikipedia that they've downloaded and shared with you. Now the thing is, how can you ensure that these children know that this is not something that is acceptable? So the point is that you need to start talking about giving credits. That whenever you are using somebody's image, please mention from where you have got that image. They should use images that are available in public domain for free use, not claim as theirs, and deduct marks if possible, so that children are prevented from this activity, right? Similarly, when we talk about ethical, we are talking about misinformation, fake websites, or fake news. To understand that everything that is there on the internet is not a fact, everything that you believe is the truth is not a fact. For that, you need to tell children that they need to use tools to find out whether an information is true or fake. So they need to actually trust multiple resources, not one. Check for that information everywhere on the internet. Search it on the internet. See that is everybody saying the same, or there's a difference. If any image is there and you're using that image, you can actually run a reverse image search on Google. Google has that simple camera made If you click on that camera, you can upload your image, and then that image can be searched for source. And then you can find out that, okay, whether this thing is true, or if whether this image that has been shared is acceptable, is it honest, it is true or not. So all these things can be shared. Then there's flaming. What we say, what is flaming? Flaming is posting personal insults and vulgar and angry words. It is an intense argument that normally takes place in chat rooms, or via instant messages, mails, or it may also occur on social media sites or YouTube. So that is called flaming. So these are the negative impacts of the virtual world when we talk about the ethical aspect. And then you have physical aspect. When we talk about physical aspect, it's the deteriorating eyesight, bad posture, obesity. Sleep also is one of the most important thing. Sleep is also something that is being compromised when we talk about the physical aspect of the virtual world. So these are the negative impacts of the virtual world which needs to be taken care of. Now, when we talk about all these things, lack of attention, cognitive, affective, social, ethical, and physical, as educators, we need to understand that there's always a way around all of them. So when we are talking about children using smartphones, and we know that they have their smartphones all the time, what can we suggest? It's like keeping your notifications off for all apps. It's not important. Just for few, it's okay. But normally when you're studying, when you're doing your work, keep your notifications off so that you do not get disturbed. One. Second is, whenever you are writing something, you are downloading something, you have to maybe write an essay. Just don't keep copying words or paragraphs from the site. Try to paraphrase them. Write it in your own words, and write it in bullets. Normally they get paragraphs. If you ask them to start writing them into bullets, it will be better for them. They'll have to think and write in one sentences. Similarly, when we talk about cyber grooming, low self-esteem, there have to be sessions in the school informing them about the psychological aspect, and talking to children about the implications that bullying and stalking can have on them, and equipping them to find out that misinformation. How can you find out misinformation? How equipping them to search multiple sites, accept diverse views. That is how we can ensure that this negative impact can be mitigated. Physical, we should always ask them to take breaks in between, move around, sit properly, keep their feet should always touch the floor, should not put wrist on the table while working, should not put their their elbow, they should not support their elbow on the table. They should ensure that when they are typing, it's basically only through fingers and not the wrists on the table. Then 20-20-20 rule can be followed. After 20 minutes, take a break, move around. After 20 minutes of screen time, look at something that is 20 feet away for around 20 seconds, right? That is how you can ensure that you can actually blink your eyes more often. You should blink your eyes more often. Sit properly, sit straight, use a chair with back support, and play more. That's going to help you in every way, and avoid using gaming apps on phone all the time. So this is how we can speak about the negative impacts of the virtual world with our children. Next is ensuring cyber security. So when we talk about cyber security, we talk about three aspects. One is confidentiality, then is integrity, and then is availability. So when we say confidentiality, it is ensuring the information is kept private and secure. You need to find out measures. You need to do you need to ensure that your system has firewalls. The system has multi-factor authentication. System is not open to access for everybody. Then documents that are there on the system, it has rights, so that anybody or everybody you can come and add or delete or make any changes on the system is not allowed. And availability, when whosoever is authorized to use a particular data is able to get access to that. It is not made public for everybody to access. So these three things at school level, we need to ensure that, and will help us in securing our systems as well. Confidentiality, that is ensuring the information is kept private and secure. Integrity, data is not added, updated, or deleted by anyone who is not the owner. And availability, system is accessible and available to the rightful user. So any system in the accounts department, any system in the examination department should not be accessible to everyone or anyone, all the teachers or all the students. No, we should be very careful about that. Now, when we talk about security, we should also be very particular. Just a example that came through. When we were talking about the various elements in the cyber educational ecosystem. We were talking about people, we were talking about hardware, we were talking about software, we were talking about processes. So when we say processes have to be laid down. There have to be owners with respect to every processes for taking up responsibility for any kind of mishap that happens. And that ownership has to be explained, has to be told. And of course, there should be, if there's any sub owner, that must be mentioned there, right? So all these things need to be documented when you're talking about a cybersecurity plan or a CI triad to be practiced in school. It has to be documented, which system, who is going to access, how is it going to access, what are the rights that are going to be given to you. All these things needs to be documented well. With respect to devices, just a vague example just came through. It just like many a times we are keeping our systems in our schools. We are giving one password to all the teachers to access. So ensure that every teacher has his or her own password for the particular system that they are using. Same password should not be given to everybody, right? Next, stakeholders in cyber safety. Now, when we're talking about security triad, who are responsible? First is the school administration. So what is the role of the school administration? What are you supposed to do as a school administrator? Identify threat vulnerability and assess risk exposure. So through this session, we are trying to actually highlight what all things are supposed to be taken care of. And again, as I'm repeating, it's your hardware, it's your processes, softwares that you've installed, and the people that are involved along with the data. So all these aspects need to be secured. So you as an administrator need to identify the threat, vulnerability, and assess the risk exposure to all these elements of your ecosystem. Then scanning and securing all the devices should be your priority. Every device. And you need to use always updated softwares, updated apps, even browsers. So whenever you are using your system, there is this, specifically with browsers, you get these updates frequently. You need to actually ensure that the system remains updated. It is updated. And why do we need to do that? It is because that every time, whenever some kind of vulnerability is assessed by the company with respect to a particular product, they share with you with respect to in the form of updates, patches that come to you. So you should always ensure that your systems are updated, your softwares are updated. You have the latest version of everything. Then develop protection and detection measures. You have to have some kind of a measure, a document that talks about how you're going to protect that. And in case of any, how are you going to detect ki kuch galat hua hai, that somebody is misusing? How can you do that? So for that, you need to prepare a policy. Then you need to protect your sensitive data. Again, the things come down to authorization and authentication. Authorization, when you say authorization, means who is going to access. And then how are you going to ensure that the person who is saying that I am this person is the rightful person? That is through passwords, authentication, right? And that, in fact, even you must be using those two-factor authentications, wherein people are there, then a mail is sent to your email ID asking that, is this person has logged in? Is it you? When you access your Google accounts and all those things. So authorization is the person who is supposed to be doing that particular activity, and authentication is to ensure that the person who is saying I'm authorized is the same person. That's mostly done through password. Then protecting sensitive data. Now, when we talk about systems, like, of course, we are normally using Word or other documents like LibreOffice for creating our documents and then storing them on cloud. Now, when you're storing them on cloud, wherever you are storing them, who is going to access? And if somebody gets access to your document, can he or she download? Then is he or she allowed to edit the document, or he or she is only supposed to comment or view? Those things need to be checked. But just keeping the system, keeping the documents online for everybody's access is not the solution. You have to decide, okay, this is only for teachers, this is only for maths teachers, this is only for the head of department. So other maths teachers should not get access to the same. So you need to be very sure with respect to what accesses are being given, and then see what sharing rights have been given. Is your document public, or is it has to be private? That has to be decided. Then respond to and recover from cybersecurity in case anything happens, as you saw in the first slide where we were talking about ransomware, where we were talking about data breach. If something like this happens, what would be your recovery plan? How would you recover your data? Are you taking frequent backups? Do you back up your data? That is also a question. Like, you have stored information in some database at some Excel file. You should also back up. You should keep it on cloud, or you should keep in your personal hard disks. That's on you, whatever decision you take. But you need to actually ensure that your data is always backed up. If something happens, you have a copy of that available. It's not that you're compromised completely. Then educate your stakeholders, everybody. When we're talking about the cyber safety and security, it has both the terms. It has safety and it has security as well. As I started, and I in the first slide, I spoke about safety and security. Safety being with respect to an individual, security being with respect to an organization. So similarly, parent, teacher, student, administrator, everybody is supposed to be informed about the various risks and threats that they can actually they can face, and then how they can actually mitigate them. So educating stakeholders has to be your priority as a school administrator, because unless until they are aware that, okay, this can happen with us, they will not be vigilant. Then enabling firewalls to restrict website access. You can actually enable firewall. If you don't want, in a school, you do not need access to everything that is available on internet. And of course, you can actually enable firewalls which can filter out the sites that can be accessed and the sites that cannot be accessed. That can be done at school level. That way, you can ensure that yes, things are safe. Next, after school administrator, it is teachers. What role the teachers have to play in ensuring cyber safety and security? So first is, keep your systems and files always password protected, right? Just like, for example, many a times, because we are also using our smartphones for storing our things now, we have mail access, drive access, everything on our phones. So make sure that everything is password protected. You are logged out of all the accounts. Anybody who by chance even if gets to access your system cannot open your system, cannot open your phone. That should be your first priority. Do not share your keys, your OTPs, or in fact your the pins with anybody in the school, not even your fellow teacher. Why would you want to share? Please be very vigilant about that. Then you don't need to be emotional about why my friend. No, please be very particular about not sharing. Keep your everything password protected. Then scan USB devices before using them on a device. Normally, what students do, they come and they plug in their USBs on your system without accessing. And then I have seen that normally what they do is they take it out without removing them safely from your system. There is a procedure that has to be followed. Ensure that you are always scanning their USB devices before allowing them to put it in your devices, right? And then keep your online classes user ID and password protected. It should always be user ID and password protected, and you should enable waiting rooms. You should not allow anybody to enter in your class just like that. There should be a waiting room wherein you would decide who should be entering and who should not be entering. Ask them to rename them. Ask them to write their names and their classrooms mandatorily when you are taking their classes. Keep taking frequent screenshots so that they are always on their toes, that of course ma'am is always vigilant as to what we are doing in the system, on the system. Download softwares only from trusted sources. Please do not download software from anywhere. Many a times we see that certain apps as APK files are available on net or are transferred from one system to another. We should avoid doing that. Anything that is not present in the Play Store, we should avoid downloading them on our devices. That's not safe. They might just put in a malware in your system and start tracking you. Then flag any change in behavior of students. So this comes with respect to how students behave. So anything that you feel that there's a change in behavior, they are quiet, not talking more nowadays, depressed, not mingling with friends they were actually mingling with a few days back. There's no harm in talking to them, because nowadays all of us know that patience level of students has really gone down, and that self-centered behavior has taken over them. Like, they're only about themselves, that we are worried, they don't talk about themselves with others. So you as a teacher can actually flag any change in behavior with respect to the students. Then comes the student. What should a student be told about with respect to cyber safety? Everything. They have to be informed about everything. They have to be informed about the laws, I guess, because it's very easy for children to actually nowadays play pranks on students by creating fake identities, which is not something that is accepted under law. So it has to be informed. They have to be kept informed about all these things, that this is not accepted. They need to be told that they have to respect the privacy of others, that you just cannot just taking anybody's username and password or making anybody's account. You should not be doing that. Downloading anybody's images and sharing with others without consent is not allowed. So all these things have to be informed to the students. Then report and flag abusive or illegal content. They should be taught to report and flag abusive or illegal content. Every site has this option of blocking and reporting. They should be told that it has to be used when you think that it is not correct. And then most important thing is that we need to actually nurture confidence in them and allow and tell them to share any issue with teachers and parents. Don't keep things to themselves. They need to talk to us. Adhere to copyright restrictions when downloading material. We need to tell them that they need to understand that whatever is there on the internet, any image, anything, is not theirs. It is somebody else's. And if it is somebody else's, we attribute them. We give them attribution. We tell them that, okay, we write it in our document that so and so image has been taken from this and this site. And we also need to educate them about the rights. We should encourage them to use Creative Commons. We should tell them about websites that are offering images for free, like Pexels is a website, Pixabay. They are offering these images that can be used by any children. But of course, attribution even then is a must. Then we should also teach them to use strong and unique passwords. They should understand that, like in maths, we know about permutations and combination. If you have a very small password, the chances of breaking it and how many combinations can be made. And if you have a longer password, then these things can be taught to students in school as well, that they need to ensure that everything, that whatever their passwords are, they should be strong and they should be unique. They should not keep one password for everything. So whatever we are following, we need to tell our children as well. Then comes the role of parent. So parents can actually use parental control apps. Even Google nowadays, they give these parental controls wherein a child under 13 can be monitored by parents, and whatever access they want, they can restrict their access with respect to the time also that they're spending on the devices. So we can tell parents that you can make use of parental control apps. Then encourage children to talk about their online experiences and assure them of their support. Tell them that they are children, they are vulnerable, and just in the real world, they might have a group of friends online. Some of them, they might not even be knowing them, must be only virtual friends. So that is why the confidence that they can share their experiences with them is must, and they should be informed that it's important that they make real friends. Numbers are not what they should run after. That is one thing. And second, fix a time for accessing digital devices. You can't take away smartphones from children nowadays. As school also, we are sending their homeworks, they are doing their activities. Many schools are actually giving their activities on their LMS. All these things are there, so you just can't take away everything. But yes, we can fix a time. Parents have to be very serious with respect to what time the digital devices are being accessed, and keep an eye on what they are watching. Take cognizance of any change in the behavior of the child. So similarly, like us teachers, even parents, they should always be very careful with respect to if there's any kind of change in behavior. Child is not talking, keeping to himself or herself, doesn't want to go to school, or maybe something else, that has to be reported. Then again, I would want to emphasize that, okay, counseling at one level as a parent is okay, but if you think it is not being handled well, you should always consult a professional counselor. And the most important thing after all these things, what we have discussed, basically, we are discussing about educational ecosystem. We're talking about cyber safety, where an individual is involved. We're talking about cyber security, wherein the entire system is involved. In this case, we talk about schools, we talk about students, parents, and everybody in total. And we also talk about the various elements. And the elements, as I mentioned, is hardware, software, processes, people, and data that has to be kept secure. And when we would acknowledge these elements in the ecosystem, of course, we will work towards ensuring that they remain safe. So all this we've been discussing. One thing that I would want to mention is that many a times, as we are, we should not be using these chargers also. I mean, like we go and take our phone somewhere out and our phone is not working. Charges, just 2% charges left. So what we do is we use the public charging systems. We should avoid doing them. We should ensure that we take our chargers always with us. In case if we are we have to get our mobiles charged from some USB port outside, then ensure that your phone has a password and is switched off when you are charging. Why I take out this example here is that the problem is that whenever we are using a USB port and we're using our data cable, then your data can be actually transferred. If that USB port has been infected, then somebody can just have access to your phone and can transfer all your data, because we are using data cable. So now what to do in case if this is a problem? First, we can have a charger only wire, charging only wire, or in case if we have to go through, then we should always ensure that the phone is password protected and is switched off. This one example just is I'm trying to tell you through this example is that vulnerability is there, but we can't avoid using technology. But yes, we can ensure that we keep it safe by following certain steps and measures, taking certain measures, so that we are not compromised. Our data is not compromised. That's just one small example. Similarly, when we look at the entire system, if we start inspecting everything through eyes of suspicion that, okay, this can happen, then of course we can start documenting it and taking appropriate measures. We know we should have firewalls. We know we should have antivirus. We know we should have updated systems. But are we doing that? Are we ensuring that? We know that we should keep our systems password protected. We should keep our files password protected. But are we doing that? That is the question. Next, of course, is cyber hygiene. So when we talk about all these things, like whatever I said, that we need to be very careful of what we are doing. It's about being mindful about our practices that we are adopting while surfing the net. And as in the very beginning, I spoke about that real world and virtual world are not very different nowadays. It's like everything is similar. All the rules that were there for us in the real world apply in the virtual world as well. Everywhere, in every office, if you talk about documents, they're always kept properly. They are kept under lock and key. All the sensitive documents are kept under lock and key. They are never open for everybody to access. Everywhere, I'm talking about the manual system. Now, since everything is being digitized, that doesn't mean that again you can have it. You can keep it accessible for everybody. The same thing applies. You need to ensure that everything that is sensitive has to be kept under lock and key. You need to identify what is sensitive, what is not sensitive, and ensure that everything is password protected, is authorized, is kept in a system that is not accessible for everybody to use. All these things, these are mindful practices that you actually take. So cyber hygiene is, again, it's about training yourself to think proactively about your cyber safety and security, as you do with your daily personal hygiene, to resist cyber threats and online security issues. So it's about being mindful. Many a times you get these phone calls about some KYC or something from some bank, that okay, your school has so and so account and we need to have a KYC something, please follow this link. So we need to be very careful about this, that of course sensitive information and things like that can never ever be shared online. We have to speak to the bank directly, and we have to visit the bank in case there's a problem. Just avoid falling to any kind of misinformation or any kind of such frauds. So this is cyber hygiene. And protect your devices, data, and identity as sincerely as you secure your valuable assets in the real world. So when we talk about safe you or safe organization, safe educational ecosystem, we talk about cyber safety measures, that's with respect to individuals. Then we talk about cyber security systems, that is with respect to the entire educational ecosystem. And then the last is cyber hygiene, that is mindful practices to ensure that you remain safe and thus ensure security. This is how you can stay safe in the virtual world. With this, I end my presentation. Thank you so much. Anything that you want to ask, you want to share? Because this is such a vast topic. It will happen in airports and railway stations. Yes. Even with respect to your apps, the apps that you download in your phone, please make sure that you don't give all permissions. Camera, contacts, every app might not need all the permissions, right? But in case you have to, then make sure that you give permissions only for that while using that particular app or for that time. It gives you that option. And be mindful of why is this asking me to share permissions for all these things, right? Or agar dena hi hai, then only for that particular time when you are using the app, or maybe at that time only, right? So small things you need to be little careful about while you are there on the in the virtual world. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your views. And this was a very informative session. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I wish you safe venture in the virtual world. All of you stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you so much.
The attend link has been within the chat. Kindly go to it and